Hey guys, we are back today with another amazing Mighty Warrior Kid story. This is my friend Brianna. We actually had the pleasure of meeting at church. Actually, we had just some different interactions in terms of local church family, and then we were able to kind of not only join together for our love for Jesus, but join together in friendship for just our love for the holistic space and health and all that stuff. And so then we also were able to kind of share in just our testimony of how the Lord just came in and has worked on just the healing of our children and just their bodies and all that stuff. So I'm going to let Brianna introduce herself and then we're going to jump into it today.
Awesome. Hi, guys. My name is Brianna. My husband and I have 3 children under the age of 9. I describe myself as a self-proclaimed health advocate with a strong conviction to honor the bodies we've been given here on earth. And my journey started about 17 years ago with experiencing some health issues of my own. And when traditional medicine failed me for probably over a decade, I finally found relief after seeking alternative care and making different lifestyle changes. I just knew in my heart that the answer to my symptoms couldn't be whatever they were prescribing. And after that, I became I don't even know what the word is, like a voracious reader and researcher, just always seeking out knowledge and truth in the health space. And it's been a slow process over the course of years, but I just keep growing more and more convicted in the importance of living a healthy lifestyle. And in many ways, living a healthy lifestyle can feel very isolating, really, since it can just be so contradictory to culture, especially with children. When I got pregnant with our first child, I started questioning a lot of things that were considered standards of care. And it's been difficult navigating that system. I'm sure all of us relate, but it quickly became clear to me that I needed to be a health warrior for my little warriors. And in my heart, I knew I had to keep pursuing knowledge and truth for the health of my family. So that's kind of the foundation that I'm operating off of. After taking a crazy step of faith about a year ago, I got connected with Gracious Healing, which, as you mentioned, is a whole other story for another day. But I got connected with her out of my own interest in health. And little did I know that connection was not by accident. And turns out I was going to need her knowledge and support to heal my son just 6 months later. Earlier this year, my middle son experienced a sudden onset of symptoms, which, through what I already knew, those symptoms were major red flags for a condition I knew I was going to need help with. I literally felt like my little happy lover of life little boy was robbed from me overnight. It was stressful on our family. I couldn't watch him suffer. And I definitely knew I couldn't ignore that nudge in my heart that I was feeling to pursue help quickly. Initially, I felt panicked because I knew the impact this condition has had on many lives simply due to the lack of knowledge from the healthcare system. And I knew that traditional medicine was not going to help us. And I didn't have time or money to waste trying to find a doctor that would even listen to what I was feeling, what I was thinking about what was going on. So I knew that that route was simply a dead end. And in my heart, I knew that this was God's nudge for me to keep learning about health through my son's experience. So during all of that stress, my peace and hope in that chaos came in knowing and believing that the body can heal if we support it in the right ways and if we give it the right conditions to do so. So I tried not to panic and not worry for that reason. What I struggled with was, I didn't want to settle for some diagnosis, but I also knew that pursuing alternative options wasn't going to be a quick fix and that it's not that instant gratification solution that many of us might be used to, and that it was going to take time, patience, and commitment to truly heal him. At the time, I felt alone and kind of paralyzed is probably the word I would use because I didn't know my exact steps. I just knew that I needed alternative support of some kind. And another difficult thing for me to come to terms with was knowing and frustrated with the fact that the real support he needed wasn't going to be covered under insurance. And ultimately, I decided it didn't matter. And I was truly, truly convicted that I was on the right path. I think that is probably, in talking with other parents, that is probably the biggest roadblock for parents to wrap their brains around because we pay for health insurance, right? And we find most times it doesn't cover the type of solutions that we actually need, which is frustrating. So I feel like it's really like counterculture to really accept that you have to operate outside that designed healthcare system sometimes. But I feel like once you can get yourself to that place, like you're never going to look back. So then fast forward. So I connected with Emily and in just a short 4 months, we had our little boy back. He was out of that acute stage. Praise God. And I will say it wasn't easy for me to convince my husband of this path. It wasn't easy for my son to do the things we needed to do every day. And it wasn't easy on me for sure. But putting in the work to support and heal his body, it was worth it. Again, not instant gratification, not a quick fix, but in the end it was worth it. That's kind of my story in a nutshell.
I love that. I have a couple questions for you if
Yeah.
it's a good time
Yeah.
to ask this. So first, I want to just go back, not just a little bit past what you just said, because I think that is an important thing that I think we as parents wrestle with when you watch your child almost taken from you overnight and they're a different person, to then
Mhm.
also take away even more things that they love in order to get them healthy, right? So like I think of like the conversations I've had to have both personally as well as, professionally, right? Where it's like, my kid has already lost so much. Then I'm going to turn around and also take these treats away. I'm also going to take maybe even certain time away from them because we have to implement some of these lifestyle pieces. Like it is, there's, right. So it almost feels like a double loss sometimes because you're also forcing your kid to take supplements. You're forcing your kid to, maybe the parent has to rearrange their schedule to cook a little bit different, or you have to not go to birthday parties because it's too hard to like not have the treats and all that stuff. How do you feel like do you feel like you process that? Do you feel like that was like, do you feel like you felt the weight of like almost that double loss? Or do you feel like it was like in the moment, like, no, it's so hard. It didn't feel like a double loss to you.
Yeah, for me, it didn't actually I wouldn't describe it as, like, the feeling of loss, but I knew it was, I would say, like, more of a challenge, right? Because we already live a lifestyle where we, don't eat certain things or we
Sure.
have, substitutes for those things. But really, what I focused on was, trying to explain to him because he didn't like how he was feeling either.
Yeah.
And so I just tried to frame it in a way that he could understand that, like, look, we have to make these better choices to
Mhm.
help your body because, we want you to feel better. And the other thing, it's a lot, right? Some of the things you have to do, it's a lot to do every day. But I think I what helped me was that I focused that, it's not about perfection. Do what you can every day. And if, you can't do one of the things that day, if they're extra tired and they're ready for bed and they don't, want to do some of the things we wanted to do at bedtime routine, it's fine. You pick it up tomorrow. So just give yourself grace through each day. So, but yeah, really, really just kind of explaining that the choices that we're making are to help him. And that seemed to resonate with him.
Yeah. Do you feel like some of that ability was based on the time you'd already spent in educating yourself and reading the books and taking
Oh,
classes?
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for
What
sure.
would you say to a mom who maybe doesn't want to do this as a profession, but maybe just wants to be educated, right? Because I think that there's this wrestle in this space of knowing where to put your time in education while still being mom, right? Because sometimes it's like we need a practitioner. I need my own practitioner, right? Because it's like, no, I want to be able to like take off the hat sometimes. So what would you say
Yeah.
those pieces of education, whether they've been books or classes, what do you feel like would be some of your highest recommendations for moms?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just get connected with other like-minded moms.
Good.
And, those moms, there's gonna be moms that are, further in their journey than you, and you'll find most of them, they're willing to share, they're willing to help. Find out what resources helped them, what practitioners have helped, which ones to avoid. But yeah, just really leveraging, building that community and getting connected with other like-minded moms, because then you don't feel alone. You don't feel like that crazy person, right? Where I just think something weird is wrong with my child. So yeah, that would be like my number one. And I do find, some new moms coming to me where they're just like, gosh, I just feel like something's wrong.
Mhm.
But it's almost like they need that validation and just that comfort zone just to like have someone acknowledge that, yeah, you're not crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So this kind of goes into my other question that I had as you were speaking, because even though you had some education, right? You had a good foundation for that. You'd already changed some lifestyle pieces. You were familiar with, you're saying like we already had alternatives for things. And then you also had community as well. But you also mentioned in that moment it felt super lonely. So
Mhm.
tease that out a little bit if you can.
Yeah, it's just, you feel helpless
Mm,
because, and I think I used the word paralyzed,
mm,
right? Because what we've been taught is kind of the opposite of some things that we really need to do to help our children. And I think one important thing to note is that you should never feel any shame for choices you've made in the past, whether for you, with your kids, because we always reserve the right to get smarter. And whether it's reading a book, whether it's listening to a podcast, whether it's talking to a like minded mom, we always reserve the right to get smarter. And when we know better, we can do better. I think we just have to have the confidence in ourselves to think outside the box of traditional healthcare. And, if you have those feelings, that pit in your stomach, that stirring in your heart, like that unexplainable feeling that something is off in your child, like those feelings are there for a reason. And you have the ability to help your little warriors. I mean, I think so much we just kind of lack confidence. And as their mom, like nobody knows your child better than you.
mhm.
So I think that that confidence in following that intuition is just, it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I've heard it said so many times, right? We don't rise to the occasion, we fall to the level of our training.
Mhm.
And so it kind of feels like, would you say that in that kind of panic moment that you, because you had some foundations already, that you were able to kind of fall back on that?
Yeah, for sure, and that happened pretty quickly for me, that it was the small time frame of panic, but then it was like, "Hold on, let's do a reality check here."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the fear stirring in me, right? And no, the answer is, like, I have resources, I have relationships, and I know that I don't just have to accept some diagnosis. And so just again, just knowing and believing that you can take steps and make those lifestyle changes to
Yeah.
help your body heal.
Yeah, I love that because I think that's something that is hopefully such an encouragement because I think sometimes we wait until, right? I think that based on how most of us grew up, at least for me and a lot of people I've encountered, is like we wait until that chronic thing happens or that acute
Mhm.
thing that nobody has any words for. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my word, this is happening. Now I'm going to dive into this holistic world. And it is overwhelming and it is a lot. Even, with a practitioner, it can still be a lot. Like to totally shift that mindset. And I think the beauty of what you're saying is that to encourage people to not wait until that
Mhm.
happens, because then like making those small steps, even when it doesn't, even when it's like, oh, my kids are super healthy, we're fine. But being able to slowly take those steps, because you never know when something might shift and turn, and then now you're kind of stuck in that place of overwhelm. I feel like so often the conversation I hear is like, oh, well, we're healthy and we eat better than most of the people around us, so therefore we don't need to like further educate or further explore health things because what we're doing is working. And so I don't know. I love that about your story. I feel like that is special and unique and such an encouragement to like little steps. We can always, I have yet to meet anybody like who can't do at least one new thing,
Yeah.
right? It's that equation I've talked about a lot, is that easy plus one, right? Like what is already easy? Okay, add one new thing in, right? Add one new herb, add one new, right? And not from a place of like always running after and never being able to like achieve, right? Because I think that can sometimes create that in people, which is not what I'm saying. But that encouragement of like, hey, we can always improve. And we do it in every other area of our life, but not so much when it comes to health.
Yep.
Yeah. How do you feel like in that moment, in that kind of panic paralyzed, like what do you feel like you did for yourself to help you stay grounded so you could show up for Knox in the way that you needed to?
Oh, that's good. So I try to do a lot to manage my stress, whether that's just having quiet time in the morning just to start my day before, my nervous system gets overloaded once the day starts. Just taking that time. And that is probably the hardest for me because who wants to get up super early, right? But I felt like that was critical just for my nervous system, just to start, quietly with my thoughts. And I think that just that time and just, knowing that God's in this with me and there's no reason for me to panic or worry. But instead, pray and focus on the things that those smarter choices or those plus ones, like you said, that we can just do better every day. And mostly just knowing that you have to have patience and framing it in your mind that way. The symptoms aren't going to be gone tomorrow, like we can see with, maybe taking a prescription or something, but just knowing and having that patience and knowing that you need to be committed and, be in it for the long haul and it's
Mhm.
gonna be worth it. So, just keeping that positive mindset instead of just worrying was,
Yeah.
I think, probably foundational for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you and I know community, I think probably you would say played a big role in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I don't have a wide network by any means. I would say, I keep my circle of friends small and tight, but those people, they are like-minded. And so, I can bounce, a feeling I'm having that day off of them and,
Yeah.
they'll help support. So yeah, I do feel like even if you find one person that you can relate to in this space, that's all it takes. And then it will snowball from there.
Yeah. Yeah. But you said that your husband was a little hesitant towards this. So
Yeah.
how do you feel like that? How did that kind of work itself out or tease out? Or do you feel like he's still not sure? Where do you feel like he
He,
is on that? Because that is such
yeah.
I mean, that is such like we make memes about this, right? Like this is
Yeah.
not an uncommon thing to have a mom who so fiercely fights for her kiddo. I mean, unfortunately, right, even the divorce rate among chronically ill children is high
Yeah.
because a lot of times I do find that moms are more holistic minded and dads are more logical in the sense of what I paid for insurance and
Yep.
these things are covered and this isn't, and this worked for me, why wouldn't it work for my kids? So how do you feel like you process that with him?
Yeah, so that's been an ongoing journey. So, I had some foundational groundwork laid there, but he was immediately like severe panic. Like,
Mm,
we got to get him to the doctor. Like, he needs testing. He needs like all these things. And I had to kind of talk him off the ledge, kind of, where I very quickly was able to get out of that panic state because, okay, no,
mhm,
there's an alternative path here. Like,
mhm.
we know what's going on. We just need help with very specific next steps. And so I think really he's just grown to trust me over every little sickness experience we have in the house and just, taking that more holistic approach, he's seen success in that. And so building those little successes over time has kind of built my credibility with him, I would say.
Yeah.
And, ultimately, yeah, the financial piece is always his biggest roadblock, I would say. But ultimately, he said, I trust you. Like, just do what you got to do. And then again, once he sees the success of that,
Sure.
it's like, okay, there's more credibility. And so, yeah, it's definitely when you're dealing with someone that, they just can't think outside that traditional box, they'll get there over time. But again, takes patience, teaching, and just helping them to understand that there's a better way.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like you fell back in that place of like love being foundational? Both love for your child, love for your spouse, that like allowed that patience to,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And, I when I think back on it, it was stressful. Every day was stressful until we got him out of that acute stage, but I mean, it was the only thing that got me through because just some of the crying and the irrational things that he was saying and doing and, I very quickly could have reacted to him in a different way.
Yeah.
But knowing what was going on in his body helped me to respond in that loving way. And I shared that with my husband. I'm like, listen, you can't get mad at him because
Mm,
he can't help it. There's something causing this. And so yeah, definitely just having that knowledge did help me work through it in a more loving way, I would say.
yeah. Yeah. Cause I feel like, again, the idea that like pouring into our relationships, right? I think we live in such a fast paced world that to really know the heart of our friends, to know the heart of our children, to know the heart of our spouse, and to pour into those in like the moments where life feels easy. Like that's hard. That's hard to
Mhm.
do because we get apathetic, we get, we're just kind of going through the motions. And so again, that idea and I feel like encouragement to other moms and a reminder to myself, right, is when life feels easy again, like are we still pouring in? Because I find that it's hard in those like acute moments, like we're going to fall back on the level of that foundation from a relationship perspective, community, spouse, children. Like when have found the thought that's coming to my mind is how much Knox could trust you. Right, and that
Yeah.
was a relationship that had been built. If he could
Yeah.
not trust you to do scary blood work, to do, the supplements and the diet and all that stuff, right? Like, would it have turned out a little differently, or would it have been a longer journey? Would it have been harder? And so how do you feel like you either worked at relationship before this happened, and then how did you preserve it during?
Yeah, that's good. I hadn't actually thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, I've worked with my kids and, trying to instill this in them at a young age that, we have to honor our bodies. Like God gave us this body here on earth. We only get one and we have to honor it. And so I have tried to instill that in them. And again, just like with my husband, it's like I feel like I have built their trust one sickness at a time, right? Like mom's going to help. Mom knows the way, and if she doesn't know the way, she'll get help. So, yeah, I thanks for bringing that up because I hadn't really thought about like, yeah, how do my kids, view me, trust, how do they trust me? And so, yeah, going to get that blood work, I was like, this is never going to happen. This is going to be a disaster. But yeah, he trusted me and knew
Yeah.
we had to do it and he knew why we had to do it. And, one of the like profound things that he said to me during all of it was, Mom, I don't want to be this way. It's not me doing this, so even he knew that, you know, this was like beyond his control. And it was like that to me was like him begging for help.
Yeah.
He wanted it to stop as much as we did.
Yeah. How did your other kids respond, right? Because we know
Oh,
now it doesn't just affect the kid and the
mhm.
marriage and the parents, but it affects our other kids, who are watching it happen.
Yeah. It was hard. I mean, there were issues every day, especially in the morning, where, yeah, he was crying. He was resistant to a lot of things. And, my oldest son, he's 9. He was like, "Here we go," and I just tried to reinforce in them that, like, look, like, we're trying to heal something in his body. His brain needs some support. Like, this isn't going to be forever, and just helping them understand that, he's going through something difficult and they just need to support him instead of making fun of him or giving the rolls or whatever. And even there was some, not like making fun of, but there were some pokes from the bigger brother, basically, like, just suck it up. But yeah, ultimately it was hard, but nothing that wasn't manageable. But not knowing when it ends was the hardest part.
Sure.
When does this get better? When do we start to see a change?
Mhm.
And so just having that faith and that patience to just keep doing what you can do every day, one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. How is their friendship now? Like, do you feel like that was again preserved through that? Or do you feel like that still a
I
little rocky?
No, I do. And they were really good because there were some issues with him when it was time to go to school. And they were really good about it's a small school, so they see each other a lot. And so they were very supportive, like, it's okay, Knox, you're fine. Like, we're here with you. So just kind of giving him that sense of like a support network. Like, he's not
Yeah.
alone, brother
Yeah.
and sister are here. So yeah, I there were moments of that and some of the other stuff that was going on, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome because I feel like that can be such a point sometimes of, right, where like the sibling nervous system almost is like
Yeah.
ready for that reaction to happen. And so they start responding, which just
Yeah.
adds a whole nother layer of like navigating with parents. You're like, okay, now I have to put three fires out, not only the
Exactly.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I love that. Awesome. What would you say just as an encouragement to just other mamas? I know you've shared a little bit already, but any other words of encouragement that come to your mind that would just be something if you were right sitting across the table from brand new mama who's unsure of where to go or what to do or right, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I think I'll reiterate a little bit of what I've said, but, like, if you or your children are suffering and you feel like something is just off, you don't know where to start, you feel helpless, you have that "I feel paralyzed" feeling, if you are tired of feeling like you do not have a voice in the traditional healthcare system, like, just know you are not alone. There are so many moms out there. I see them every day. I talk to them every day, I feel like. And just know that there is a better way. Again, just, that unexplainable feeling that something is off, like, those feelings are there for a reason, and we just have to have the confidence to do better for our kids. So yeah, just don't settle, I would say, and don't wait, and really just follow your heart. And if you have a practitioner that you have in mind, whether it's gracious healing or not, like, book that appointment. Just do it. Even if it means you have to sacrifice, like, financially, you have to prioritize your child's health because it's worth it. It's worth it in the end. And it's going to take work, it's going to take patience. But I guarantee you are going to learn something about yourself in that process. And you are going to, further your knowledge so you can do better for your family.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So good. Any other parting words that you haven't got to share yet?
I don't think so. I just feel for all the moms and, including myself in this, because we're all learning, we're all getting smarter every day. And I mean, I don't see that stopping anytime soon. But yeah, my heart goes out to everybody, and just find that one friend, find that one like minded person and pull them close. And, when
Like, you're not going
that's right.
anywhere. Sorry, you're my friend now forever.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, just start building that community, even if it's just one person, and that community will grow naturally.
So good. I love it. Well, thank you so much for just sharing what's on your heart and sharing your story with us. And we are just so thankful for your wisdom and just your openness. So thanks, girl.
Thank you.